Good evening, race fans. Welcome to the Core Racing Network tonight. Live coverage of round 2 for the CSRL GT3 series, and it takes us to France, the Circuit de la Sarthe, better known as Le Mans. And this thing, it used to be a daunting 10.1 mile track before it had some reconfigurations and shortened up, but not by much. Almost 8.5 miles of racetrack here. This thing is a beast. It is obviously well known for the 24 hours of Le Mans, and plenty of race car drivers have come over here and tested themselves. Obviously, you can look to movies like Ford versus Ferrari, a fantastic movie. If you haven't got a chance to watch it, it's definitely recommend it, and is as close to the real thing as possible. I mean, it's based on facts, and it was a big rivalry between Ford and Ferrari back in the heyday here of Le Mans. But we got some good news, we got some bad news. Good news is, for the drivers, my co-host decided not to register as a driver. Bad news for the drivers is it is wet out there, and this track is tough enough as is. Yeah, it's got a lot of straightaways out there, it's got a lot of running out there, but they're going to be running in the wet. Orlando, we're joined in the booth by Joe Sullivan. Joe, this is a monster of a track, and now they're going to deal with a little bit of rain here tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited for tonight. I've never been here or raced here or watched anything here. I am very unfamiliar. I mean, I'm familiar with the name, obviously, but unfamiliar with this track. So another learning opportunity for me here tonight, and see how these boys get around here and get around here in the rain. So the track's wet right now, and it looks like it's going to be getting a lot more precipitation here later on.
Yeah, I mean, this thing, it's 4 minutes, over 4 minutes to get around this lap here at Le Mans. It's obviously a little bit quicker, and maybe just under 4 minutes when it's dry, but these conditions are going to be a little difficult for these boys out here. Right now, it is cloudy, but the track is still wet. They're finishing up with qualifying right now, but it's been pretty interesting. Obviously, our first round last week certainly started off strong at Le Mans, at Monza, and we had some early storylines coming out of the first chicane, Joe.
Yeah, we did. The front row there with James Pierce and Craig Jancic got into each other there, and a little bit of netcode issues and this and that, and both of them out of the race early. So both of them ready to get back, into where they're normally up front. So we'll see how that transpires tonight. Both of them, I'm sure, chomping at the bit to get more than just a couple of turns in tonight. So and then be somewhat competitive and be a factor at the end of this thing. But last week, Pierce Hamilton was able to come in here and come away and take advantage of that mishap from them two, and get a win here in the pro class. And Anthony Jenkins, another first timer in this league here, able to get a win in the AM class. So we'll see how those guys do this week, and we'll see with Craig, we'll see what he can do here, and he's going for the three-peat. So we'll see what how that transfers tonight.
Yeah, certainly going to need a bounce back after last week. But before we run out of time here, I want to bring in one of the admins, one of the men behind the scenes, and one of the men behind the wheels last year. And that is Colin Winslow. Colin, you're up here in the booth. What do you got for us here? This is it's going to be a wet and wild Monza here, and or not Monza, Le Mans. It looks like it didn't change it here on my scene for some reason. But Colin, welcome to the booth, buddy.
Thanks, fellas. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's going to be a crazy one. Le Mans for sure is already a crazy track, but being in the rain, that's going to make it even crazier. Your pit strategy, if it starts to rain at a unforeseen time and you pass the pit lane and you're still on dry tires, you're in for a rough lap, around a 4 minute lap time.
So we talked a little bit about the issues, the little kerfuffle on lap 1 last week, involving a few of the top boys here in the series going to be competing certainly for a championship, needing a bounce back week this week. Is this going to throw a little wrinkle in there? It looks like still got some of those top names at the top of the boards.
If anything, I mean, I'm not familiar with James's driving, but Craig, he does just fine in the wet. We know this, so I think he'll be up there fighting to make up those points for sure.
Well, we're about to find out here, and 45 laps here on tap. You guys bump it up just a little bit from last year, and I guess just give us 5 more minutes of drama. I mean, the last 5 minutes of every race, it seemed like last season was where the drama is, and I guess you just want us to have 10 minutes of drama this year.
Yeah. It might have been Craig's idea, right? Because 5 more minutes in that last race, who knows what would have happened? So.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, you got anything for Colin here before we let him go?
No.
All right, buddy. Well, listen, we appreciate being on board here. I know you were one of the proponents of bringing us back here with CRN and broadcasting for you guys. It's been an absolute blast so far. It's fun. It's something different every week, and you know, we talk about it left and right about the storylines, and it seems like there's always something to talk about with you guys out here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we love having you guys on. Definitely excited for this one.
All right, buddy. Well, we'll let you get to it, and maybe we'll get a chance to bring you back up in here and see how you think the race is going out there. I know you got some eyes on some drivers out there, and we'll see how they handle these wet conditions and see if they venture out there with some dry tires at some point as well.
Sounds good, boys. All
right, that is Colin Winslow. And man, I mean, this is going to be an interesting one here. We said it before. It's a big track. I mean, you see the Mulsanne Straight there on the top of the little track map right there. It just broken up by 2 little chicanes, but it is high speed all around this track. And yeah, maybe a little over 4 minutes in the rain here, but I mean, your foot is flat to the floor for quite some time here.
Yeah, it looks like that. I mean, just the shape of this track here is. I'm trying to figure out what it looks like, you know. I mean, but that
pig,
that
maybe.
Big old,
it's as big as a pig, that's for sure.
Like it's got like a point, like an arrowhead, but then it almost looks like the United States, but just a weird version of it.
Well, it's French.
Yeah,
it's French, so you know they're not gonna. They can't make it look right like the United States. Yeah.
It just always weird. I'm not weird, but it's like I always find it interesting to look at the shape of the track, right? I mean, it's just how they come up with it. Like, I mean, you know, when you're building roads and doing this, you kind of you got to move for certain landmarks and this and that. But like racetracks are built for, you know, speed and this and that, and then the corners of how they want to do this. It's always interesting to me how these tracks get formed like that and the shapes that they take. But that long straightaway, I mean, I would wish that those little you know, chicanes there weren't there, because I'd rather just be going straight and fast. So but it's going to be fun. It's kind of got 2 sides here, you know, the long straights there, and then the other side of it where it's a lot more turny on that side of the track.
Well, they definitely used to have that configuration without the chicanes there, and I think they did it really just for safety, because, I mean, back in the Ford versus Ferrari days, they were hauling, well, you know what, down the Mulsanne Straight. But yeah, I mean, like you said, with tracks, it's interesting when you dig into the history of tracks. I mean, you look at you know, oval track like Darlington. It's kind of an egg-shaped track, and that's not by, you know, the design that they necessarily wanted to go by. It was what they had to go with, because the nearby farmers did not want to give up part of their land, and they had to, you know, kind of cut the track in and make it a little bit tighter on one side of the track. I mean, when it comes to road courses, it's almost, you know, okay, I want to put a road course somewhere in this general area. Okay, well, here's the land you're going to work with, and realistically, they typically don't mess with the land too much. I mean, it is what it is. If there's, you know, uphills, downhills, undulations, back and forth, I mean, you know, most tracks started out as, you know, as dirt roads, and they decided to finally pave them. But we are finished with the qualifying here. We'll bring up the qualifying results and show you what we're going to be looking at here for tonight. In the pro class, James Pierce once again on top of the boards. Last week's winner, Chris Hamilton, in second by over a second behind him. And that just goes to show you it's all going to be, you know, how much you're willing to push the car here tonight in this wet. Craig Jancic in third, Herbert Pineda, Steve Brown, your top 5. Devin Young, Christian Moro, Siviano Madrigal, Dan Morera, Renan De Lima in your top 10. And if I hit the right button here, Frank Bassano, Jonathan Neal, Jose Peraza, Jim Dutton, Skylar Vickroy, Andrew Walker, Bryce Rayner, Tyler Torville, Marco Chacon, and Christian Torres rounding out your top 10. And then rounding out the pro class field is going to be AJ Roderick in 21st. In the AM class, it is going to be Anthony Jenkins, last week's winner, on top of the boards here. Jim Herrick in second. Randy Ayers, Jason Potts, Nicholas Coate, William Burrell, Steve Taylor, Brandon Potts, Todd Torville, Jay Little, your top 10. Just want to get you guys over here just in case they have a shorter parade lap here. And then we'll get to the rest of the AM class order. It is going to be Stephen Price, Josiah de Cruzaz, and I'm going to look into that one. I feel like it's close, probably still not right though. Glenn Lazan and Nick Russell, your 14 car field. So 35 cars, looks like actually 36. Maybe Nick Russell not going to be out here tonight, or at least starting from pit lane, but 36 cars registered for tonight's race session. That's phenomenal number. And it's a track where it's big enough that you're not going to see the dots clouding up the whole track. It's still going to be some gaps here and there, and it's one thing where, you know, with these conditions here, you're going to want to try and find some breathing room. You know, when you're coming into the pits and coming back out there, you're going to try and look to see where you can come out and where you can, you know, really kind of slot in without anybody else around there, so you can just maybe breathe a little bit. But I like the paint scheme there on the 20 of Chris Hamilton, making it look like the safety car out there. So, so I guess we'll have a not even a virtual safety car. That's a full course safety car there, just going to be at high speeds here tonight.
I couldn't imagine a full pace lap here. I mean, that would be a 15-minute pace lap, wouldn't it? That would be, oh my God, it would take these guys forever to get around here for a pace lap, and they'd have to probably pit for fuel immediately.
Well, we are getting ready to get this thing underway. We'll send it down to Barney, clear out the screen. We'll get ready for 45 minutes of racing out of the final chicane. We are racing at Le Mans.
Big stack up there on the inside line.
It's one thing. This start finish line is right after you come out of the final little chicane there, and see him coming up the hill here to the Dunlap chicane. Great look there, and you see already the spray coming up. It's not too terrible. Looks like the track maybe wanting to dry out here just a little bit, which is certainly a good thing. And it looks like Nicholas Coate maybe going off the track, coming back on right now. And now down through the S is another beautiful look, looking back up there towards the little Dunlop crossover.
Hamilton's pulling off already, yeah, big time.
Chris Hamilton taking the lead here onto the Mulsanne straight the first time, and a good look at these drivers flying down there side by side, back there between Jonathan Neal and Dan Morera. Waiting for him now down into the first chicane.
Jonathan Neal, he did really well last season in the rain, so be interesting to see how he does here tonight here at Le Mans.
I was going to say, I see him on the track getting close to it. There we go.
There we go.
Coming through the first chicane right now. This is kind of the first test. You're finally up to speed. You finally let the big dog eat here a little bit, but then you got to get wound up all the way, really hard to the right, and then you really have to tuck it hard back into the left to get a good run out of the chicane and set you up down the long Mulsanne straight one more time, and then down into the second chicane. See him down there in the distance. Heading now into the second chicane, and kind of the same deal here. You want to really cut it hard to the left here, but you're really going to keep it tucked into the left. And how about this? Jancic jumping up there. James Pierce now looks like he is going to try and get to Chris Hamilton here. Was side by side, but Hamilton is going to hold on to the position.
Yeah, Porsche just ain't got the straightaway speed that McLaren does.
And we'll head on down to corner that you said was nice and pointy, and it is actually nope. Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
And this is one of the toughest corners here, because you're full speed coming out of that second chicane. You got a little bit of a kink, and you're immediately on the brakes. And I'm sure it's not much easier here in the rain, but it is a real. I mean, you see it on the track map. It is a really tight corner, and you gotta nail it, because it sends you down a straight that's just about as long as the Mulsanne straight, and the run down into Indianapolis right here, which is something that maybe makes a little bit more sense for you, Overboy over there in Indianapolis here. You see it real fast corner right here. You gotta, as soon as you get out of that corner, you're on the brakes hard to the left here, And another, another section that can certainly be tricky. At least it is for me at times. If you don't have a car that's handling well, that thing wants to get a little bit jumpy as you're going back and forth trying to get that thing to brake all the way down there.
A little bit of banking there in that corner too.
You get a little excited, aren't you?
Yeah. It's gonna be some bacon. that's my jam right there.
Right now it is Greg Jancic out front, leading over James Pierce, Chris Hamilton, Steve Brown, Herbert Pineda, your top 5 as they head for the first time through the Porsche curves. And this is a fast section. Doesn't matter if it's raining or not. This is a fast section of back and forth here through the Porsche curves. It'll send you into the Ford chicanes here at the end. You see 2 chicanes real tight here at the end of the lap here, and you take the first one at a lot higher speed than you probably really want to. And you're really taking a lot of the curbs coming in there. We'll see how these drivers do the first time through. Obviously a little bit more tentative with the rain out here tonight. And our field will complete their first lap out of the final corner here. And there we go. As we complete the first lap, we are already about a 10th of the way through this race, Joe.
Yeah, that's one lap around here. Oh, we got one spinning. That's Bryce.
Bryce Reiner. Bryce Reiner indeed spins out right in front of us right there.
He's going to get it safely. You don't think he hit anything, so he's going to be good there on any kind of car damage. Ooh. That's a lot of curbs right through there. Will these guys be able to be on the curbs here with the rain?
I mean, normally I would say no. Normally curbs are no. It's painted, it's slick when it gets wet like this, but it seems like they're able to take it pretty good. I mean, it is raining right now, so it's not hard rain right now. We'll try and bring up the weather, see what it's showing us, and it is. I mean, it's just showing as cloudy, but you did see a little bit of rain there entering the Mulsanne Straight, so it's not fully completed yet. And yeah, you do see a little bit of rain now coming down into the first chicane, so we'll see if this track decides to get maybe a little bit wetter for these guys. But yeah, I'm really surprised of how much they're taking these curbs. I mean, if you jump over them and kind of get the tires straddling them, you're okay, because you got you got the little bit of grip on each side. But yeah, they're taking these curbs like it's not raining at all, so maybe you got some extra grippy tires on there tonight.
And really, with it's as massive as this track is, and with the rain coming in, I mean, every lap's going to be different, right? I mean, it's you don't really know what you got until you get back around there. I mean, you got to, obviously it won't change drastically, but it's going to be a little bit different. I mean, a puddle could form by the time you get back around there. I mean, yeah, we got 4 minute laps here, so I mean, you could get quite a bit of precipitation in 4 minutes. I mean, if it's a heavy downpour. So by the time you come back, especially in these tight corners, couple of these tight corners here, you have to, at least be aware of that situation.
Jump on board. Show you how ginger they got to be on the gas, getting out of the tight corner there.
It just shows a little bit of sprinkling. It doesn't look like it's coming down too hard.
Well, what is interesting here is as we take a look at Craig Jancic, you notice the tires. You see it's like a little bit blue that's going around there on those tires. And then you look right here at James Pierce and you see it's yellow. That is not per car, that is per tire. Craig Jancic right now out there on the dry tires. James Pierce on the wet, and majority of the field is on the wet tires. And you look back here, Steve Brown is also on the dry now. It's not a foolproof thing, because we've seen it before that it doesn't look right, and actually it's showing Steve Brown on the yellow striped tires, and James Pierce the same, but it's showing dry and wet, so it could be wrong, but it certainly seems like these guys that are showing as dry tires are starting to move their way towards the front of this field.
Yeah, we got what, first, third, and sixth on dry tires. Also neon dry tires as well.
Again, that's what I'm showing, but I mean, I've seen SDK be wrong with that before, so take that with a grain of salt. We can bring up the tire compound here and show you right there. That's what we're looking at right now, with the black ones being the dry tires, the blue ones being the wet tires. But again, I've seen that have mistakes before, so take them with what you will. But I mean, it's kind of no surprise that you're seeing some of the dry tired cars up towards the top, and a little bit of maybe a deke right there, just kind of setting up that the entrance to that corner. You definitely want to be all the way over to the right there, and really kind of launches off that corner. But complete lap number 2.
I thought he was going coming in there to switch over to the wet, anticipating this rain. It looks like it's going to, I mean, this track is supposed to dry out because they're a couple seconds faster than quali in practice.
And a little bit jumpy here. And I think it's just through the kind of the stadium section right there. We'll take a look back here at a battle brewing between Herbert and Pineda, as of course now it's getting really glitchy. I think the rain is starting to come in. It's affecting our cameras here, and yeah, really getting a little rough out here. Trying to do some things to try and clear it up for you guys. I don't know if you've seen any kind of issues on your end, Joe, but all of a sudden it just got really bad for me. It hasn't been bad all race, but now, of course, now when they're spreading out, now it's starting to look bad, at least for some of them.
Mine's still coming in pretty good. Pierce is starting to reel Craig back in here. As Hamilton's fell back to 4th. I wondered how, I've seen a couple guys in the Porsche here. I wondered how that would work with this big track. So I know the Porsche doesn't have the top end speed, but it's obviously one of the better ones in the rain as well. But from what I've been told, this McLaren's been pretty good in the rain as well. Yeah,
and you see all those car logos that are missing is still the McLaren. They haven't updated it quite yet for the for SDK, but you see there's a ton of logos missing. So there's all the drivers running the McLaren, and it's pretty much most of the field. I would say it's a good 60% of the field that are in the McLaren here tonight. I'm still not sure what's going on here. I'm trying to see if I can figure it out on my end and get it cleared up for you guys. But of course, you know, when everybody's grouped together right at the beginning, nothing was wrong, and now all of a sudden it's spread out. it's too much to handle apparently.
And a couple of brave souls out there in the Ford Mustang. Steve Brown, he's right there on James Pierce now.
He is battle for second as Steve Brown up 2 spots, started in the 5th place, and now hounding James Pierce. And that's where I feel like SDK, you know, may be right that these guys are the ones that are on the dry tires, and the other ones are out there on the wets. And you see it, you know, a little bit of a little bit of wiggle for both of them, of course, coming out of the corner there. But I mean, you see Chris Hamilton falling pretty far back here, is really falling off the pace here from the top 3, and now Steve Brown right up the backside here of James Pierce, cutting to the inside. Is going to be on the outside here. They'll get shoved out there, and again, more contact, and that is going to hurt again for James Pierce. Steve Brown, and of course now wants to really not be happy about that. We'll switch up here to Chris Hamilton coming through the section, but that was a big impact there for James Pierce, and it looks like he gets back on track, but that is certainly going to hurt.
Yeah, it's heavy damage for both of them. Looked like Brown got to the outside of him there, was trying to make the pass, and Pierce has got into him a little bit, or a little bit of netcode again on this McLaren. And another wreck here for James Pierce. Running in second right there.
trying to work out the bugs on my end, but right now it is Jancic out there with 11.5-second lead, but now battle for second. Jonathan Neal, one of the biggest movers in the race, started back in 14th position and is now up there in second. So a big move there for Jonathan Neal, and he certainly has some pace to run up there. And again, you know, you look at those tires, what it's saying, at least to me, is that the dry tires are what you want to be on right now, and it's clearly moving the dry tires towards the front of this field, if that is indeed correct. I mean, right now, Jancic in the lead, Neal in second, showing as dry tires, the rest of the field showing as wet tires, until you go down to the M class. Leader over there, Anthony Jenkins. And I apologize for how bad this is going. Once again, all of a sudden, I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever, but we will keep this thing rolling here. And Anthony Jenkins in the lead over Jim Herrick by 1.9 seconds. And then you have to look quite a few cars back, as there's a few cars in between Herrick and Potts, who was running in third place. But up at the front, Greg Jancic, loving all this air that he can breathe, but he's got to worry about that number 23, who certainly has some pace out here tonight. I mean, Jancic ran the fastest lap of the race last lap with a 4:08.35. So even in the late rain here, the times are starting to come down. You remember the qualifying times were in the 4:14s. So right now, 4:08.35 is the fast lap. So these drivers are maybe getting a little bit of a dry line developed out here, and starting to kind of, you know, feel a little bit here, and really trying to put some lap times down.
Yeah, as Craig's kind of opened this thing up here. I mean, I know we just had the accident there with second and third, but these boys are. I'm wondering when they're going to maybe make the call to come in and some of these guys to get off the dry tire with this rain coming in. I don't know if you can pull up the radar or not on your side.
I was about to say yes, that's radio though. Yeah, all I have is weather on my side. We can bring up the weather and iRacing and give you guys a little bit of an idea, and let you pop it out here.
I don't know if you have that queued. I can't remember I don't even know what the queue. I always just look at the mini board or whatever.
You see the rain is certainly coming in. I mean, you see right there the little black dot is a track. We'll zoom in here a little bit. Already in the blue. That's why you see it's light rain all over the track right now. And when you zoom out, you see that green is coming. I mean, there's a little bit of a gap in between right there, and maybe they'll get lucky, and that little bit of a gap will kind of go right over the track, and everything will be fine and kosher, but certainly not looking good right now. And kind of the same thing with the PC here. So still, again, trying to figure out what the issue is here. But as it stands right now, we are a third of the way through this race, and we're going to bring in Colin Winslow again here and get his take on the first part of this race. Colin, another big incident in the top three here, and again involving James Pierce towards the end of the previous lap here, taking out Steve Brown along with it. I mean, it's been pretty interesting out there so far. I mean, not too many incidents, a couple guys going off track here and there, but unless I'm wrong, it seems like there's some guys out there started on the dry tires, which were great to begin with. You see Jancic and Neal first and second in the pro class, but that rain's a-coming.
Yeah, I'm getting the same thing on iOverlay. I'm reading Craig and Neal as being on dry tires, which seems to be true because they are definitely outpacing the rest of the field right now. But with that being said, I would have expected them to at least pit probably this lap. That rain is definitely coming in, and it can really punish you if you go too long on that dry tire.
Especially if we get some kind of like instant downpour, right? I mean, you just passed the pits, and then all of a sudden the rain picks up heavily, and you got to go a whole lap on these dry tires. It's probably not a lap you want to be doing. I mean, you could lose a considerable amount of time if you can even manage to keep it on the track.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm looking at the radar now, and it looks like that rain is coming in. So if I'm Austin or Craig, I'm really hoping that rain doesn't come in too soon, because they still got half a lap to go, which around here is, you know, over 2 minutes long, and that's a long time to be in too damp of a track on that slick tire.
And now they're pretty much, I mean, I wouldn't say they're in their you know, where they wanted to pit, but they're in at least the window where they can pit and at least get the wet tires on and try to, yeah, I mean, you'd rather be early than late, right? I mean, if you're going to err on one side or the other, you want to err on getting the tires early.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at this point in the race, they're definitely at a point where they're in their pit window and they can make it on fuel. So, you know, as fast as they are, it looks like, you know, whenever they do have to pit, as long as they make it through this lap, it looks like it's going to pay off for sure.
He biked up to 11th after his lap 1 spin. Trying to get around Pisano here.
So ultimately, I mean, obviously these guys starting off on a little bit drier of a track out here tonight, and the rain coming in. I mean, what are your thoughts so far on the race? I mean, 35, 6 cars out here tonight, and I mean, really not too many incidents to speak of. And this is a fast track where one little mistake can end your night very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks, I mean, I'm impressed by how little the field is actually spread out. The incident between Steve and who was that, James, was pretty unfortunate. It looks like it was just side by side. I think Steve might have been on that dry tire, and it looks like he might have hit a patch of puddle there and just got a little loose, which is really unfortunate for the both of them. But otherwise, it has looked like a pretty clean race so far.
Yeah, I mean, Craig's out front, and it looks like Johnson's got a little bit of gap over third. But other than that, I mean, you look at the track map there, and from third to what, 20th. I mean, it's pretty close racing right there. And
Craig has still chose not to come in. Wow, just about lost it.
Well, that was going to be my next question. I mean, on any track, it's tough when you get to that transition phase when it's time to go from dry to wet, or vice versa. But on a track like this, where it's 8.5 miles long, you make that split-second decision as you're going past the pit lane, and you decide to stay out that one extra lap. I mean, that could cost you, you know, a good 20 seconds if you're wrong, let alone it could cost you your car.
Oh, absolutely right. I mean, if this decision from both, it looks like both Austin and Craig have not pitted, you know, this could be make or break for them.
Looks like Christian Marua into the pits here.
Got a first taker here.
But he was showing as wet tires, so I don't think he's coming in to change tires. I think it's just a scheduled pit stop. Bryce Reiner was on the dry tires. Keeps hopping around, wouldn't let me click on him. But he is coming in, and I would not be surprised if he is going to take some new tires. Looks like Randy Ayers.
Randy Ayers.
We had a little bit of an incident here coming through the Ford corners. And right there. That brings me to another point that we talked about early, and maybe it has to do with some guys being on the dry tires or not, but typically rain, wet, and rumble strips do not mix, but it seems like these guys are able to take the curbs pretty well.
Yeah, I think a lot of that depends on how much of a raised curb it is, right? So the water's not going to sit on it as much when the curb is raised a bit. It also helps how much these curbs are rumbled. Le Mans is known to have really high rumble strips, and that actually helps you grip up more on that painted surface, even though it is a painted surface. Where most of the time, you know, something that is that painted, it would be super slick and you wouldn't want to touch it. But most of these curbs are raised around Le Mans, and that helps, you know, get rid of that excess water. So they can take a lot of these curbs.
So I got to talk to you about strategy. I mean, obviously you were out there as a racer last season. In a situation like this, you got, you know, Craig Jansen out there, Jonathan Neal is still out there, as is William Burrell in the M class on the dry tires. who do you think has the better strategy? Because obviously those guys with the dry tires are going to have to change tires when they make their pit stop. Everybody going to have to make a pit stop at some point or another to take enough fuel to make the end of the race. But, you know, do you have enough of a gap to cover off taking those tires by having the dry ones on to begin with?
Yeah, I do think, so that's one thing with this added 5 minutes to the race, you do have time to take tires and get your fuel. So that is something I don't really think it's going to hurt Craig or Austin as long as they can make it through these laps where, you know, it's getting kind of intermediate where, you know, I'm looking at Craig and Austin now and they're both sliding around quite a bit.
Well, Austin I'm showing as the wet tires. I think it's Craig and Jonathan Neal are the ones at the front for the ones that are dry. At least on my side, and then William Burrell in the M class.
Yep. As long as as long as that pays off and they can actually make it to the pits with a decent gap, I think they're going to be fine.
Well, so far so good. I mean, we are coming up on 25 minutes into this race, so about 20 minutes left. Already past halfway. And I mean, really a great showing with this many cars out there. It gets a little tricky with them on the start of this thing. I mean, you're starting right out of a chicane, and you know, really when the leaders are starting the race, they're just coming out of the chicane. Everybody else is still coming through. I've seen I've seen other leagues as looks like Dan Marrera off on the side, Steve Taylor also off there as well. But yeah, as I was saying, I mean, a majority of the cars are out there still going through the 4 chicanes when the green flag is lit. So how tough is it to try and not necessarily give up position, but you got to try and stay side by side to give yourself an advantage at the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the start is super tough around here, and a lot of times, you know, my mindset when you're coming through those first chicanes and you're not, you know, in the top 5, top 10, is I'd rather take a loss in position there, because a lot of times whoever you're taking a loss in position to, both of you are going to be faster if you're going through one by one, right? So a lot of times it pays just to be patient there.
Apparently it is pit lap here at Le Mans. Just about everybody dumping in this time by. Go ahead, Jeff.
Busy. I was gonna say, any chance that they I mean, it looks like, just looking at the radar, it looks like it's gonna get a little bit heavier, but I don't know if this if it's gonna get like too drastically different. I mean, any chance that they don't shake tires or switch tires? I mean, or is it just almost just a foregone conclusion to switch?
As you said that, it looks like Craig definitely took tires. Let's see, who else is out? Did Jonathan take tires?
Now it looks like Jonathan's still on the dries.
Still on the dry tires.
Yeah. I wondered if that would be a strategy here. Because just looking at the radar, it looks like it's going to get obviously a little bit more, but...
You see him struggling right there through the first couple corners and already going to give up a spot to Chris Hamilton. So he's got to get those tires heated up quickly and find some kind of dry spot, but I think it's going to be tough with all this rain coming in.
Yeah, I think that's a mistake. I think that one's going to cost.
Oh, there he goes around.
Oh, right behind him, Devin Young. Sending in there a little bit. He's got the wet tires on, but I guess he need a little kitty litter for a little grip to get around that corner as now Herbert Pineda closed in on him for 4th place. So with the rain coming in, does that now make those curbs a little bit more treacherous, because they can still have that runoff with them being a little bit raised, but does it now make them a little bit more treacherous because they will have some rain on them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with more rain, you're looking at the chance of puddling, and anytime you have puddles, that's you want to avoid that at all costs, obviously. So where the curbs sit, there's always those divots, and there's a chance that that's where the puddles are gonna take. So as the rain gets heavier, you're gonna want to watch, and as you come around the track, it's a lap by lap basis. So these guys are constantly watching the track and just looking at it to be able to see what state it's in and see how much puddling there is. And as they see those puddles form, they're going to change their lines a bit.
4D Racewear, look at this guy.
Great battle into the first chicane here as Frank Pisano trying to stay with Dan Marrera. And I think Morer was trying to hold up Anthony Jenkins there a little bit, as we have a new leader in the M class. And it is the man behind the 40 Racewear. That is Jim Herrick leading now in the M class. Craig Jancic in the lead in the Pro class, down to 11.8 seconds right now. As it's a tough corner. There's really, in my eyes, there's a few trouble spots. Obviously, the corner right there, the hard angle. But you got that little kink heading into there, and to me it's so tough taking that little kink and then immediately having to get on the brakes without getting that back end a little bit loose, just in the dry, but let alone in the rain out here.
Yeah, I was talking to Craig during practice, and he was giving me some feedback that he was definitely having a tough time in that corner specifically. So you know, no surprise to see him still getting loose around that corner, especially as the rain starts to get heavier.
And even heading right into there, you know, kind of almost the same deal there in Indianapolis, where you have that right-hand corner, but as soon as you're out of that right-hand corner, you're immediately braking for that bank turn to the left. It's a lot of times I've seen that back end step out if you brake just a little bit too early, and if it steps out and you're pointing to the right, and all of a sudden that turn, the next turn goes to the left, you're kind of screwed. I mean, it's a tough spot right there. But how fun was it for these guys, or maybe not so fun? I'm sure they got some practice in the rain going through these Porsche curves. Normally they're fast, they're flowing, they're fun, but I gotta imagine you're kind of biting your fingernails a little bit going through here in the rain.
Yeah, I mean, you're asking the wrong guy, because this is what I love, right? I mean, when you're going through these curves like this, you're on the edge of grip the entire time, obviously in the dry, and then in the wet, it's just that much more, and it's so much fun to be able to go through those turns, and every lap's a little different, and you just gotta be in tune with the car and be able to feel, you know, exactly where that grip lies, right? Because every time you go through there, it's gonna change a little bit, your line's gonna change a little bit, and you just got to be able to feel where that grip is to be able to get through there as quick as possible.
Speaking of grip, it looks like the wrong choice was made with Jonathan Neal, and I don't think go back and watch to see what happened, but he jumped to the pits. Looked like he had an accident.
Looks like already involved right there. We'll take a look back here. And going through the section that I just mentioned through Indianapolis here.
Yep.
Catches the curve there a little bit, pushes him out wide, and you see right there, the car points to the left. The next corner goes to the right, and actually vice versa. the car points to the right, the next corner goes to the left, and you see the car did not want to oblige for him right there and try to get back on the track, but you see that car is hurting. He ends up stopping it and towing it back to pit lane, as clearly the wrong choice of tires there for Mr. Neal. But change for second place. Devin Young, even after having that little bit of off on the out lap here, has caught Chris Hamilton and passed him. So new second place driver here. We'll see if he has anything for Craig out here. But Craig enjoying a 16-second lead right now. So he had the right tires, I think, to start. He's certainly got the right tires on right now. But battle again down the Mulsanne straight, now heading down into the first chicane side by side. Hamilton on the right, Devin Young on the left.
I might have heard a lift there from Devin.
Oh yeah, he checked back in underneath him.
Yep. I will say the Porsche definitely looks to be lacking the straight line speed that you really need around Le Mans. Even in the wet, it looks like it's not making enough of a difference.
It was interesting to see Hamilton even pull him right there, though. I mean, I know they were side by side, but I wonder if, Devin Young just got around him. That was kind of weird to just let him back around him, you know?
Yeah, obviously we can't see telemetry, but from my point of view, it looked like Devin had let off, and he might have done that on purpose just to slide back in the draft.
Well, once again,
save some fuel.
Once again, the McLaren seems to be the car choice for everybody out here. I know it's the hot new toy and the fresh model out here, but yeah, we've seen last year some guys switch around from car to car all throughout the season, depending on the track. Do you think it's just everybody just is still fully in love with this McLaren, and it doesn't really matter where you take it; it just feels right?
I'm I wish I could tell you. I haven't been able to drive since the update, but from the feedback I've heard from some of the guys is the McLaren really is it's really good right now. It looks like it's in need of a bot pretty soon. You know, the opposite of what happened with the Mustang, right? The Mustang came out and it was underpowered. The McLaren seems to be, you know, just a head above the rest.
James Pierce bouncing back here pretty nicely up to 7th place after the early incident. And not too far behind him is Steve Brown up into the top 10 overall. Biggest mover on the race is Tyler Kokeko. Started in 23rd position overall and is up 17 spots. So heck of a run here for the 212 driver Tyler Kokeko, now up into 6th place. But overall, it is Craig Jancic that is enjoying a 14.6 second lead, down a little bit. So not sure if he's just you know, taking a little more cautious this lap or what the case is, but you know, he was out there to about a 16-second lead, and you see him maybe having to drive it a little bit safer here. Chris Hamilton reeling him in just a slight bit. Kevin Young in 3rd, Savini Madrigal, Herbert Pineda, your top 5 in the Pro class. Over in the M class, it is back to Anthony Jenkins into the lead. And I've been trying to look back and see when that pass actually took place to show you guys, but he gets back into the lead here in the M class. William Burrell into 2nd, Jim Herrick, Randy Ayers, and Brandon Potts, your top 5.
Yeah, Jim Herrick has lost quite a bit. He was leading and now he's 12 seconds behind you, and I wonder if something had happened to him.
I mean, I made the mistake. I showed him on camera for a little bit, and I'm sure that was what the case was. I showed that he was leading, so my bad, Jim. I completely apologize for that. But yeah, still trying to look back and see if it was a mistake by Jim or what the case was. I'm not even seeing the pass right now. So
I see an off track from Jim, but it didn't show a crash or nothing.
Take a look back here on lap 6, but this was quite a while back here.
Yeah.
And this was, I think, even before the pit stop. Yeah, because this was on lap 6. This was certainly.
This is when they pitted.
Yeah, because he came into the pits then, so it's not this right here for sure. So yeah, sometimes SDK just misses it, and maybe Jim just taking a little bit more cautious. As looks like I might have found one more here. And you see right there, already passed and was running right behind Anthony.
It was, yeah. I'm sure he had a slowdown there, so.
That's hard to sort of slow down this Mulsanne straight. I mean, Colin, talk about that right there. I mean, it's easy to blow one of these corners and just take it wrong just a little bit, and it just seems like no matter what you do, short of stopping on the Mulsanne straight, it just seems like that time just creeps up further and further. You can never bleed it off.
Yeah, speaking of, I believe that iRacing has just released an update to resolve that issue. I have been able to at least attempt to get an off track, and it looks to be actually accurate when you're slowing down now. So prior to, you know, unlike 2 seasons ago where I lost, you know, about 5 seconds down the straight for a, you know, 0.2 second slowdown. It looks like they've been able to resolve that, and the slowdowns are much more intuitive now. So really good change there from iRacing.
You're saying a change that big, and you haven't given it a try out yet? I mean, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I thought was the case there. So. So, what's it going to take here for Chris Hamilton? I mean, obviously gets the win last week, and you know, some may say he was kind of gifted a little bit with the early incident between James and Craig, but running in 2nd right now, I mean, obviously first season here in CSRL and doing well. It seems like he's kind of calmed the charge there from Devin Young, but he's still eating into Craig here a little bit. If you're Craig, if you're Chris here, you got about a little bit less than 10 minutes left in this race. Do you keep the foot down here? Do you try and reel in Craig? You know, just even if you don't get up there to pass him, just for the sake of being like, hey, you're not just going to run away with these kind of races. I still got some pace. If I find the the right early part of the race, I'm going to come at you. Or do you just kind of settle in here and go from a 1st last week, a 2nd this week, and and you'll kind of wait till next week to challenge him again?
Yeah, I think it's more. My mindset would be that I'm gonna, kind of settle in, and maintain the gap to Devin, because realistically, the 10-second gap to Craig, it's the only way you're gonna change that is if Craig makes a big mistake, right? So.
Which we have seen. We have seen before. Maybe I need to show him on camera a little bit longer. As we look at Craig Jansen in the lead right now.
Absolutely, but yeah, I mean, you're going to try to maintain, that second place position. That's the priority here, and the only thing you can hope for at this point is really a big mistake from Craig. You don't want to risk pushing too much and losing it, especially in the wet. Now, if it was dry conditions and you felt like you could really push, that might be a different story. But in these types of conditions, you really just want to make sure you keep it on track and take it home where you currently are. And it looks like he's coming under pressure from Devin, so I think that's where his mind's going to be right now anyway.
Well, I almost feel like the pressure from Devin is helping him kind of crank up the pace here a little bit. It's under 10 seconds now. It was just 11 when we looked a little bit earlier, so certainly running a bit faster. Last lap, he was about 4 seconds faster than Craig. Now, obviously, the lap times here are going to be dwindling down, and we're only going to be 3 or 4 laps left in this race once we cross the line. But how tough is it out here? You see the spray coming off of that Porsche. Obviously, Devin was ahead of Hamilton, and like you say, you may have heard him lift to get back in line behind him, but that spray, it's tough enough to drive in these conditions to begin with, but when you're riding along behind somebody, we'll jump on board here with Devin and show you how bad that spray is, but talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, the spray is tough. I think for most of these drivers, as long as you know the track, your reference points are, you shouldn't be worried too much about the car in front of you in these conditions when you're in the spray. More so about, what's to the side of you. That's your reference points. That's what you're using to judge where you are, how far you are from your braking zones, and that's what they're relying on right now.
Looks like for sure they're trying to stay off those curbs now. I don't see them getting too close to those curbs, and it looks like a little bit of puddling up over there as well. So
yeah, I was just going to mention that too. It looks like the track is finally starting to take some puddles here, and it's starting to show itself here in some of these turns.
And that's kind of another thing. We talked about the transition to go from dry to wet and vice versa, but to go from wet normal line to puddling up, and you have to kind of drive the corners the opposite way. You go into corners, your typical line in the corners is you're trying to get down to that apex, you're trying to get out of the inside, but that's not really the case, Colin. When it gets wet out here and it starts puddling up, you almost have to drive all the way to the outside of some of these corners.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's corner dependent, and like I mentioned earlier, it can be lap dependent too, right? I mean, the track is changing not only based on how much rain is falling, but where drivers are driving on the track, right? Because not only is the rain coming down, but as the cars go across the track, they're displacing a lot of water, and that can change the line that you need to take through these turns. But yeah, as the track starts to puddle, they're going to take wider and wider turns, just to make sure they're staying away from wherever the water is puddling at, because obviously that's not where you want to be. So and they're finding grip, right? And that's what I love so much about the rain is when you're driving in the wet, so much of it is just feel. Every lap you're feeling a little bit different line, and you're just trying to feel where the grip is in the car and on the track.
I'm sure we do a little side-by-side, but you've seen that spray that was riding along with Devin Young, and now you look at Chris Hamilton and how much clearer it is. I wish we could almost do like a side-by-side to show you Chris Hamilton. Well, here's Chris Hamilton, and then here's Devin Young. You see how much the spray just really gets in your vision. But yeah, I mean, you're looking for those side markers. At a track like this, you got enough sideboards and markers that you can kind of look at, but tracks that don't have those, it can get very difficult. I mean, you're almost trying to pick out a tree or just kind of feel it and use muscle memory to get into it. But getting back to the corners, I mean, is it just kind of a feel thing? Like you go in the corner, you see like right there, Devin Young just getting a little bit of a push through the corner there. Is it a feel when you go into these corners and realize, okay, well, that corner's now starting to puddle, so next time by I got to take it to the outside? Because you can't, you know, really make a split-second decision when you're going into the corner. All of a sudden, you see the puddle in the inside. You can't really all of a sudden jerk yourself to the outside if you're not ready to get to the outside of that corner.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You can feel, it's such a hard thing to explain, but you can feel where the car is gripping and where it's not. And a lot of it is, you can, as you're driving, you can see where the track is wetter versus drier. And so you can kind of make those judgments just based on vision. And a lot of it is pretty intuitive, you know, is it where the track dips down. If there's any divots in the track, you're going to want to stay away from that because water's naturally going to puddle there. And all of these things affect your racing line, and that's why you're seeing these drivers take so much different lines than what they would in the dry.
Trying to see what happened to Wayne Burrell, and maybe I have to go back a little bit further here, as he was running up there in the top 3 in the M class, but looks like a bit of an incident here into the chicane. The car just slides sideways, and I mean, barely kisses the wall, but the front end comes off. I mean, that is an absolute shame. And you see that's obviously going to affect the arrow going all the way down the straightaway. You've seen the second incident there, and he ended up coming into the pits since then, and I believe he's had another incident since he came out of the pits. We'll take a look at that now, and you know, finally got the car all cleaned back up again, and then goes into the second chicane, and luckily this time the front bumper stays on, but man, under braking there, that car did not want to stick whatsoever.
Yeah, and a lot of that might be attributed to how much, you know, how much easier it is to lock up in the wet. You know, you hit the wrong place on the track, and it's so easy to lock up.
We'll try and bring up Barney here and see if they're on last lap. He's holding the white flag. I don't know if that necessarily means that's actual white flag or not, but we are.
He'd be waiting it for a long time, Carl. He's probably taking a break.
I mean, he's gonna have something. Just set it in there, set it and forget it. But I mean, you know, right now we're at the 45-minute mark, so I'm not sure if they've already taken the white flag or not. I would think so. This should be the last lap here for Jancic, and we'll see if he can bring this thing home. And that the lead has certainly come down. You see back there in the distance, that is Chris Hamilton and Devin Young. One little mistake here from the 3 is going to bring them right into play. And even right there, Savini Madrigal trying to get in the picture, and Herbert Pineda, the top 5 on the same straightaway still on this last lap, getting very, very close. Steve Brown trying to make his way back up there. He had a little bit of an incident again and dropped back to 12th, but now trying to catch up and make a late last lap pass here on Frank Pisano going into the second chicane. But Pisano trying to get around your AM class leader, Anthony Jenkins, and he's just, you boys figure this out. I'm trying to win my class right here. As it goes side by side, looks like Pisano going to give him the edge into the first chicane here. Maybe live to fight another day.
We got Jim Herrick right back there too. He's creeping back up in here, trying to get to the Anthony Jenkins. He's in the shot too. So
yeah, if you're Jenkins here, you're minding that gap to Herrick. You don't want to get involved in this battle between Steve and Frank. It's not going to give you any points, and it's not worth even getting close to them.
Yeah, like you mentioned earlier, just get out of the way and do it in a way that you don't lose too much time, but just don't get involved with that, because then they're racing for a position, and if something happens and then you're involved, and as an innocent bystander, just there's no, like you said, there's nothing to gain there. So
absolutely, there you go. Frank might have got a slowdown there.
Yeah, this thing may not be over just yet. 4.3 seconds. I mean, it's over. It's about a half a lap left on this lap here, and Hamilton goes a bit wide there. Devin Young still in the mix of this thing too. Under 4 seconds now. I mean, have we found a bit of kryptonite here for Craig Jancic? Is it wet weather racing, or is it Le Mans late here? I mean, obviously had a great run early with the dry tires. But had he been on the same tires as everybody else, this thing could be very, very interesting. Coming to the end of the lap, though, 3.5 seconds. You see the gap from Rooster Tail back to second place.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if Craig's last lap, he had a mistake. He put in a 34 versus a 31 on Chris, and even this lap, they're closing in on Craig. And that could be, you know, Craig might be holding back. You know, I'd love to hear what Craig says about his strategy here.
Big bobble there by Young, but now he goes to the outside. He makes it stick and gonna make the pass here. What a move there by the 15 of Young to try and take the position, and does so on the outside. And then it comes back to what we said, you know, sometimes some of these corners got a little bit more grip on the outside, and now coming into the final chicanes here, Craig Jancic is going to get it done. Certainly a great run back here, and this is not going to be the 16, 17 second lead that he had. It's going to be a lot tighter, but he is still going to pick up win. And in race number 2, very close battle between Devin Young and Chris Hamilton, as they're going to come home second and third. Siviani Madrigal, a good run by him as well, up 6 spots from his start. Going to finish in 4th. James Pierce on the pole. Had some issues once again, but he is at least going to come home in 5th place here tonight. How about Skylar Vickroy? Haven't got to see him at all this race, just quietly, sneakily up 13 spots. Started in 19th, finishing in 6th place. Then we mentioned early,
great run.
Palico Keiko up 16 spots from his starting spot in 23rd up to 7th. But looking down over at your AM class, it is Anthony Jenkins. And how about, we'll look right behind him as Barrera still battling with Pisano. Looks like Pisano is going to hold him off. This is the battle for 10th and 11th in class. And right in front of him, Anthony Jenkins going to go back-to-back here at Monza and a wet Le Mans to grab another win. And right behind him, I don't want to show him too much, as I showed him earlier and he lost the lead, but how about a 2nd place for Jim Herrick? Great driving. How about the man in 3rd? Randy Ayers moves him back down to the AM class and feels a bit more at home. 3rd place for the 66. Nicholas Cope going to bring it home. And 4th place, and Brandon Potts. Just got a few more corners here in the Blue Machine to bring it home into the top 5.
Yeah, good run from Brandon. Ooh, we got one spinning back there.
I guess Mr. Jim Dutton wanted a little bit of TV time, so there we go. We'll show him some TV time there as he pulls away. Looking to close this thing out and finish in 15th, right ahead of another heartbreaking race for Bryce Reiner, as he's going to come home in 16th place in the Pro Class. Certainly not the start of the season he wanted, and it's been a little bit too much of, well, that right there. That was a little bit more on purpose on that one, but great run for these drivers out here. And I mean, Colin, the one rain race here, and maybe the only one here on the schedule, but it certainly got interesting at the end. Those dry tires at the beginning seemed to be the right call, but staying on the dry tires was not the right call for Jonathan Neal, and maybe a little bit cautious there by Craig with those wet tires at the end, and gave up a ton of time. But like you said, maybe he was just milking a little bit. But all in all, pretty good race here from all the guys here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be curious to hear, you know, Craig's thoughts on his strategy and, you know, what his play there was. Congrats to Jim Herrick. He needed that. He needed that race. That was such a good race for him. Consistent, you know, race, and that's something he needed. Randy coming in right behind him. All in all, great race, and that pass from Devin was fantastic. That was a masterclass pass, especially in the wet like this. What a pass, but great racing from both Chris and Devin to keep it clean like that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Normally I have to chase some guys down here to get in the waiting room, but you see some of them before I even take a look at it, they're happier than a pig and you know what just to get into the waiting room. I see Jim Herrick and Randy Ayers hopping in here pretty much right as soon as the checker flag flew. So happy to see them back in the broadcast waiting room, and we'll get them all in here for their interviews here in a second. But Joe, I believe this might have been your first race here at Le Mans, let alone a wet Le Mans here. So what are your thoughts after this beast here?
It's similar to the Nürburgring we did last season. Big track. Lots of racing. It was tighter than I guess I kind of anticipated, but with the rain, I guess that was kind of an equalizer. Because usually these big tracks, these guys get spread out, and I mean, not that it gets boring, but there's not going to be battles on the track, but there was, I mean, battles everywhere, and cars were like at one point there was like 4th to 20th, just, I mean, like right on top of each other. So it was a really good racing, and like Colin said, this is a pretty fun track. It looks like I'd like to get some laps out here, and I mean, not that I can compete with these guys, but like just to get some laps around here and get a flow of it, and see what it's like just to actually get some laps around here in a car. So
see if you can beat their wet times on the dry tires. Yeah.
Yeah, if I can get like some kind of nitrous or something, like an airplane, I don't know, something a little faster.
Well, I mean,
I definitely need handicapped.
Colin's saying the slowdowns aren't as bad, so I mean, just cut half the track and you should be good to go.
Yeah, I just go straight down that long straightaway. Like, yeah. I'll just give me this, just mail me this the slowdowns, and I'll take that into that right hander.
Like Pocono, what turn 4? Just watch your kinks on the Mulsanne straight. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
All right,
we get the top speed here.
We got our boys ready and lined up for these interviews, and we'll start them off here. Well, Colin, we'll keep you in here. We'll let you get in here in the action, and we'll let you get the winners of each here. But first off, in the AM class, Joe, why don't you go ahead and take the 3rd place finisher, Randy Ayers?
Hey, Randy, you got a copy?
Yeah, copy. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. This is a great racing out there tonight. Kind of talk me through your race there. We had the rain here at Le Mans.
Yeah, everybody was really, I guess the bottom, I don't know, 9th through, last, basically, were really close. So the fast guys were always fast, but, apparently they qualified on dries. I was on wets, so I couldn't get the pace that they did on the dries. But I did really well when it started raining hard, and had a couple mishaps, but overall, pretty happy with the drive.
Yeah, like you said, there was a couple of guys that took the dry. Was that ever an option for you, or did you ever experiment with that, or was it just it's raining, so I'm putting the wets on?
I went out for practice on the dries, and they didn't get warm enough in 2 or 3 laps. They were still quite slippery, so I opted for the wets for the entire race.
Yeah, a couple of guys there took the dries, and at the beginning of the race were clearly faster, but as the rain kind of picked up there halfway through the race, they came in and got the wets, and it kind of equalized out, and things got real tight. Like you said there, at one point, like from 4th overall till like 20th to 25th, it was, you guys were just on top of each other, and with this big of a track, sometimes it gets spread out, but you guys are still just right there, keeping pace with everybody, and cars, kind of right next to each other, and putting on some good racing. You're back to the AM class this season, to kind of like level things out with everybody, but you kind of feel more comfortable there, right? I mean, it's just kind of just had the pace that you have, and all that. So good to have you back here, have you back on the podium here and talking to us post race.
Well, thanks. I'm glad to be back. Yeah, racing's fun. Whoever I'm racing with is fun. So, we've got some really fast and really clean drivers here. So, I enjoy racing with all these guys.
Yeah, you guys. I mean, it's crazy to me how you guys put on a show each week. It doesn't matter the track or the conditions. I mean, the racing's so tight here and so clean, and to have 35, 36 cars out here tonight. I mean, even in a wet race, which, I think the majority of people don't like the rain, but to still be able to come out with this kind of field here is just, shows what this league's got and the talent that you guys have here. So, but congrats on the third.
A great equalizer, rain.
Yeah. Congrats on the 3rd here tonight. And before we let you go, anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, my girlfriend, always supporting me in this. My cat, thank you for staying off the buttons and switches today. Appreciate that. So, yeah. And thanks for you guys for putting this on. Thanks for all the admins there at Casual Sim Racers League, and for you guys for putting it on. So,
all righty. Well, congrats on the 3rd. I'll let you go celebrate, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks. See ya.
All right.
That is your 3rd place finisher in the M class of 66 of Randy Ayers. The second one that we will bring in is the 40 of Jim Herrick. Jim, first off, want to apologize. I showed you on camera when you were in the lead. That is completely on me. I know you wouldn't have spun out had that not been the case, but you fight back, and I didn't show you again until you came around the final corner, just to make sure you bring it home in second here tonight. Got to feel good.
Yeah, it's really nice to be back on the podium, and yeah, I wouldn't feel too bad about causing that spin. I came out of the pits and my tires had cooled off, and I didn't change them though. They're same set, but there was a lot more water on the track, and it took me a couple laps to get used to the adjusted braking points, and I gave up a couple positions there, but yeah, I managed to do okay.
I mean, was it a day of just kind of, you know, keeping the car on the track and trying to be as smooth as possible and not necessarily worried about anybody else and really feeling that track change? I mean, it changed from lap 1 all the way to the end here with the little bit of rain in the beginning, and it started picking up, and obviously you were on the wet tires the whole way here, but it changes, and you have to transition the entire time to, like you said, you know, the braking points and where you're entering the corners, how you're driving the corners. Was it really just focused on driving the track and not necessarily anybody else?
Yeah, it was definitely a day you wanted to race the track and keep up with the conditions. I had to adjust the brake bias as the conditions got worse, as the car got lighter, you know, moving it forward a little bit to try and keep from looping it around under braking. But yeah, it was, you know, it was tough conditions, and anytime it's like that out there, you have to worry mostly about keeping yourself on track and going in the right direction, and not so much about what everybody else is doing, although, you know, you definitely have to keep an eye on what's going on around you.
Well, I've seen you out there running around your buddy Dan Morera, and it looked like he was trying to do what he could to hold back Anthony Jenkins there when he did have the lead. So how good was it to be out there riding with your buddy Dan?
Oh yeah, Dan's a great teammate. And he was really just trying to not put any pressure on me, you know, trying to let me do my thing and not, you know, keep my focus there. But eventually, I think I went off a little bit. He got a run. I had to let him by, but it was nice. I had a couple pros to buffer me from the amateur field pack that was behind me, so I could you know, run a more conservative race and just kind of let those guys by as they came along. And after the pit stops, things got a little hairy. Like I said, the car got a little more sketchy, and the conditions were a little more wet. There was more standing water on the track, and he definitely had to, at that point, stay more offline where there's a little more grip in order to keep the car from wanting to break loose.
Yeah, we're seeing it a little bit here on the replay, watching you go through the first couple corners. But I mean, do we finally have a formula for you? It just, you know, it's got to be a rain race and maybe no TV time to help you out get to the top step of the podium, or do you think that this one just finally gets the monkey off your back and you can really start going at it now?
Well, I hope the monkey's gone now, but you know, this is a track that I know pretty well. That's definitely a theme I got going. You know, if I know the track, I'm much more likely to have a good finish and to grab a podium than some of these more obscure, like, European tracks that I haven't been on so much. I mean, you know, Lasarth is obviously, I've done a couple endurance races here, and you know, you drive a few shifts of a 24-hour race at a track like this and you pick it up pretty quick. So that worked to my favor, and I seem to have a little bit of an advantage in the wet conditions, again, probably from the endurance racing, because it seems like ever since iRacing introduced rain, all the endurance events have had their fair share of it. So yeah, I guess that works in my favor a little bit. I won't complain, but hopefully we're gonna have solid finish in the dry too. I think last week it could have been better. I got caught up in a little mess at the beginning, which held me back, and then had another little incident right at the end, which I apologize for that. But yeah, hopefully we'll come back and do well in the next few races as well.
We certainly needed to put those 40 Racewear shoes on display here tonight, because you really needed to be tentative and feel everything with the throttle and the brake here tonight. So congrats on the second place finish here in the AM class. Who do you want to give a shout out to or thanks to?
Well, yeah, you got to keep giving us TV time, because the sponsors really love that. So thanks to 4D Racewear and a teammate Dan Marrero.
I'll show Dan a little bit more. Maybe that'll help you. I won't hurt you as much.
There we go. Now, shout out to teammate Dan and to Jim and the admins there. CSRL and all you guys at CRN. Love watching these broadcasts. It's always fun to hang out and watch a race on TV afterwards. So appreciate you guys, and looking forward to hopefully seeing you again next week.
All right, buddy. Well, congrats again on the podium here. We'll let you go, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
That is your second place finisher in the AM class, the 40 of Jim Herrick. Last but not least, back-to-back wins for the 54. Colin, why don't you go ahead and take our winner here, Anthony Jenkins, in the AM class.
Anthony, you got me?
Guys.
How's it going? What a race. Talk us through your race there. It looked like you had it pretty clear from the rest of the AMs there. You had at least a 2-pro buffer between you and Jim Herrick there.
Yeah, I was basically just trying to, again, just not fight with the pros when they caught up, let them through, latch onto their bumper, and try to maximize that tow. As I was basically just staring at my relative and seeing where Jim was the whole race.
Yeah.
And as long as I can keep him a couple of seconds back, like not taking any chances, not trying to fight anybody, just let him through, tuck in, grab the tow, and don't crash the car.
Yeah, I feel you there. So I saw that you were behind at least the Frank and Steve battle for a little while, and it looks like you were holding back. Was that on purpose? You obviously didn't want to get mixed up with the pros there.
Yeah, that was absolutely on purpose. Those two were going at it like cats and dogs, and I wanted no part of it.
Nice. Yeah, I don't blame you there. Obviously, it's not your battle, and it's not gaining you any more points, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you started on the wet tire.
I stayed on the same wet tires the whole race.
Nice.
I tried the wet for the first lap in qualifying, and very nearly put it in the wall. Or I tried the dries rather for the first lap in qualifying, and that didn't work out. So I stayed on the wets.
Gotcha. And that's what you qualified on as well.
Yeah, qualified on the wets as well.
Awesome. Awesome race. Well, congrats on the first place. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
My wife for putting up with my nonsense.
Awesome. Well, congrats on the first place.
I appreciate it, guys.
That is your winner here in the AM class of 54 of Anthony Jenkins. And yeah, always good to shout out the wives and putting up with everything that we do to make this happen, both in the broadcast booth and obviously all the racers as well. We'll switch now over to the Pro class, and third place here tonight was your winner last week. Joe, why don't you go ahead and take the 20 of Chris Hamilton?
Hey, Chris, you got a copy?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Hey, man, those last couple laps, well, I guess about the last 2 laps was pretty interesting. Why don't you kind of just let's go through that and talk me through those last couple laps there.
Well, I was trying not to spin out. Starting on wets was not a good idea, at least at first, because I was a sitting duck. But coming out of the pits, I had it kind of like flipped the switch where there was like no puddles on the tracks, and you can kind of go with the dry line to you had to run the wet line like immediately. And I think Craig, we were talking with Craig, he was kind of chilling out. I was more worried about David right behind me. I was getting better at corner outs than he was, but he was catching me in the corners. I think I burned up my wets at the beginning. So yeah, he made a absolutely beautiful pass around the outside. I was like, dude, nice pass. I was impressed.
Yeah, we caught that live, so we were watching that you guys battle because you guys were, catching Craig there the last couple laps. He had 10 seconds, but you guys had narrowed it down a lot, and we were wondering, we were kind of talking about what your strategy was, at that point, because you had kind of about a second on Devin at that point because he had got around you, but then immediately you got back around him. so we were kind of talking about what your strategy was on whether to try to push and run down Craig, or just it is what it is, and come home second, but just worry about what Devin was doing behind you, But then you guys were both reeling in Craig there the last 2-3 laps, and then Devin got around you there. But was that your strategy? Just kind of hold Devin off? I mean, Craig was out of reach.
There was a point where I felt like I could get Craig. There was like a slight light at the end of the tunnel, and then I saw he was able to maintain it. So it was trying to keep a Devin behind me. I just kind of stuck it in the middle, tried to avoid the rubbered in line because I could see the rubbered in line. And but he made that pass was good. Nice clean racing. I think most of the back and forth was from mistakes. I'm not sure if my lazy spin was caught. If it was, caught in 4K. And yeah.
I don't think we did catch that. No, I don't. But was you expecting that move, or is it just kind of when he got around you there, was any kind of indication that he was going to do that?
I wouldn't. I was half expecting it, and then when it actually happened, I was like, "Whoa!" It did definitely caught me off guard, and then I couldn't think. I didn't want to send it too hard into the last chicane. It was already way. It would have been chaos. So I just kind of accepted a third because I think all of my rivals wrecked out points wise. So I'll just keep on keeping on. Try to get top 5 podium every week, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, you won last week and you got third. So obviously, I mean, a really good start to the season here, and your debut here with this league. So a good start, and we go to Indianapolis next week. It looks like. So is that going to be a good track for you? You got time there?
I just did the 6 hour in the Porsche and literally in the safety car. I love this livery. But I'm not sure what car I'm going to do. I might jump around. I might go back to the McLaren. We'll see. Maybe I'll do a roulette wheel and pick a car for the week.
It's an interesting strategy. But well, congrats on the third here tonight. Before we let you go, anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Huge shout out to Parks de la Cruz for the iRacing safety car livery. I was getting a lot of compliments from it, but it's definitely not me. That was all Parks. If you want to use it, it's on Trading Paints. And thanks to all the guys. I got to give a shout out to John Obinger. He's the one who brought me over here. So if you want to blame anybody, blame him. And thanks to you guys for the broadcast.
All right. Well, congrats, and we'll see you next week.
All right. See you guys.
That's your third place finisher this week in the Pro Class 20 of Chris Hamilton. Second place is going to be the 15 of Devin Young. Devin, obviously, got to jump right to the end of the race. Is it, I mean, short of passing for the win, short of it being in the real life Le Mans, was there anything better than passing a Porsche in the Porsche curves on the last lap?
No, that one felt pretty good. I didn't know if it would stick out there. I felt like there might be some grip out on the outside, but hadn't gone there really through the race. And I don't know. I just figured let's just see what happens.
Well, talk me through everything that led up to it. I mean, you got past Chris Hamilton early on, 2-3 laps before that, and it looked like you kind of he got a run on you a little bit heading under the Mulsanne straight, and you kind of just backed off and fell in behind him. Was that by design? You just wanted to kind of ride right there and wait for a moment to strike right at the end?
I got an off track actually. So
okay.
After the that was like one of the, I think I got him on the first lap after the pit stops, and tires must have cooled down. It felt like the track was a lot greasier, and he made a little mistake. I ended up getting him, and then coming onto the straight, I just went wide, and one of those times where you're not making it, so you have to just kind of let the car go out to the outside. You're losing a second, but you don't want to lose your race. And then I could stay with him. He was driving really well. There was times where I could pull up to him and try to get a run, but I couldn't get the traction out of some of those 90 degrees. It felt like he was really good at just getting out of those 90-degree corners without wheel spin. And anytime I got close, I just couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't ease the throttle enough to keep traction and get a real good run on him. And you just wait and hope that there's a chance, but at the same time, you're just trying not to bin it because I couldn't see shit, and it was pretty greasy. So
Yeah, I mean, you're riding in that spray for so long, and we showed the comparison. We hopped on board with you, and what your vision was compared to hopping on board with Chris Hamilton, and obviously a lot clearer for him. But I mean, the pass, was it just a there's a last lap. I'm really close to him right here. I'm just going to send to the outside and hope it sticks. Did you feel like it was kind of your last opportunity? I know the lap ends with a couple chicanes, but really they're not necessarily passing opportunities going into there.
Yeah, and especially in those conditions, just out of respect, I'm not going to throw it in there because it's just too tight. It's tight enough for one car. So, yeah, I thought, my thought process was I thought there would be grip out there. Didn't know for sure, and I felt like, if I send it out there and there's grip, then I can probably potentially get him on the outside turning in, and then it turns to the inside. Because the inside line there was not easy. You had to really, you really light braking, little bit of throttle once it kind of gets turned, and it was a tough place to have the car. And once it stuck, it was like I know it. I saw it back. It looked pretty sweet, but it wasn't as hard as it wasn't. It's hard to hold it there once I was out there, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised by how much grip there was. And again, I kind of felt like I'll throw it out here, and if it doesn't stick, then I'll just go onto the grass. And I had 10 seconds or something behind me. It is what it is, and but glad it stuck. And I mean, that's always how you dream of finishing a race, short of a drag race to the line. That's pretty fun.
I guess we got to ask if you unstuck your fingers from the wheel. I'm sure you were kind of white knuckling it when you went to the outside there and maybe gripping that wheel just a little bit extra going through that last couple corners.
I probably was. I try to keep my hands as relaxed as possible because it helps. But yeah, I mean, there was quite a few times where I think you had to grip on pretty tight because it would, yeah, you'd have some grip and you'd lose it. And it's high speed. It's a high-speed track too, so you're not exactly crawling. You don't have a lot of time to correct something if you do get a big snap. So, yeah, it was. No, aside from that, it was kind of an Oscar, right? I thought it might stick, but I wasn't sure. So, happy that it did.
Sometimes you just send it and then see what happens, and it worked out pretty nicely. You get a second place here tonight. So, before we let you go, who do you want to give a shout out to or thanks to?
Just thanks to you guys, and thanks to the organizers of the league. It's fun. I'm enjoying it, and yeah, this is a great hobby, and we were just chatting about it. We're all pretty lucky to have this at our disposal in our basements or whatever, and yeah, lots of fun. So thank you guys.
All right, buddy. Well, congrats again on the second place here tonight. We'll see you next week and see if you can get to that top step.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
That is your second place finish here tonight, the 15 of Devin Young. Last but not least, the 3 of Craig Jancic, but he's had plenty of interviews, so we can just skip him for tonight. So we will... Just kidding, buddy. Just kidding. We'll bring it back in here. Colin, why don't you go ahead and take our winner here tonight, the 3 of Craig Jancic.
Yeah, first off, Craig, I got to preface this by saying you got to pretend that I'm not your competitor and answer these questions like I'm not about to be racing you next week.
Tell him everything. Tell him everything.
You want me to just forget about that Misano contact?
Tell him everything.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I forgot about it completely. You're just...
the choice of the McLaren, let's talk about it specifically for the rain, because obviously it's the car of choice in the dry. Does it feel just as good in the rain?
Not exactly, to be honest. I still think it's the right choice because it is just such a rocket ship right now. iRacing does not have this car under control by any means, and I figured that, if we're going to spend, just guesstimating, we probably spent 40 to 45% of this race on a straightaway. I'm going to say it was probably the right decision regardless of if there's better cars in the rain, just because of the pure speed advantage. I mean, I think that was really well represented on lap 2 going down the second Mulsanne there. Or I'm sorry, on lap 1 going down the second Mulsanne there, where we just walked around Chris Hamilton basically. So I think that was the right call regardless. But yeah, until iRacing gets this car a little bit under control, this is the thing. There's no point in even testing.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was my signal on the straight line speed. I watched you pass Chris there. That was insane. Strategy. You qualified on the wet tire, right?
I did, yes. If I had 1 more ounce of observation skills, I would have went out with about what would that? I would need 8:20 to go so that I could have 2 dry laps. And if I had an ounce of observation skills, I would have done that. But thankfully, and shout out to, let's make sure I get his name right, because we have a lot of new people here and a lot of them have very common first names. I just want to make sure I get it right. Yes, Andrew Walker. Andrew Walker made the call and said, "Hey, these drives don't feel too bad," in our chat there. And honestly, I said, "Andrew Walker, take the wheel," and it was the right call by a mile. That being said, I couldn't have stayed on the dry tires for about another 13 seconds without crashing that car. By the time I got around to the fuel pit stop, and honestly, the strategy is the only reason I won this race. Yes, I was gap managing at the end of the race. I was pushing probably about 60% to give away my 15-second lead just because I didn't want to die. And I'd feel a hell of a lot worse if I wrecked the car than I'd rather, nobody cares how much you won by, you just get it won, right? So, yeah. So I just gave it all away, just making sure I didn't die.
Yeah, I feel that. So what you're saying is you started on the dry tire not having run a single lap on the dry tire in this condition.
Not a single lap of practice, preparation, qualifying, any of that was done on the dry tire. That's correct.
Nice.
Wow.
What? So what went into your decision making lap after lap? Because obviously this is such a lengthy lap, right? So every time you pass that pit lane and you're still on the dry tire, obviously it's in your head, like, is this going to be the lap where it starts downpouring and I'm screwed? How much went into that decision every time you pass a pit lane?
Until I ran a slower lap, it wasn't even on my mind to get out of the dries. And I ran a slower lap the lap before pitting. Now granted, I think it was like 4 seconds, but I also had a slowdown in there, so it was probably realistically about a second slower on real pace. My lap 4 was a 4:07 and change. My lap 5 ended up being a 4:12 and change. But like I said, I had a slowdown coming on to the one Mulsanne, so I probably gave up a big chunk of time there. And that's when I was like, okay, this is kind of starting to, we don't really have much front rotation left. The raindrops, I can't describe it, but they make a sound sometimes, and sometimes they don't. And they started to be audible. So I knew that the rain was intensifying. We looked at the forecast, and the percentage of rain from the moment that we were at that time until well beyond the race's end was near 100%, if not total 100. So it was some point on my lap 6, my in lap, where the crew chief and race control announced that the session was declared wet. And that's when my pants were declared pooped, because I knew I still had to make it around, and eventually did by the skin of my teeth, because even trying to get it slowed down for pit entry was an absolute nightmare. And the Porsche curves turned into just closing your eyes and praying. And I truly almost mean that literally, because it was scary, but it came out the other side. I honestly and genuinely don't really know how.
Yeah, it looked like it was getting hairy there towards the end of your stint. Not that I'm your competitor and stealing trade secrets here, but are you saying that you judged when you should change tires based off the sound of the rain?
It's a factor. Yeah, it's a very real factor. Because it's silent. There's no the precipitation severity is minimal enough that it does not make a sound when it contacts your vehicle. Then eventually it does. And that was my signal to know that the rain was becoming severe enough. It was truly like 15 seconds later is when the session was declared wet. So no one's stealing any trade secrets there. That's just using ears, in my opinion. And that was my tell that it was crunch time on that.
Yeah, I'm asking because, you know, in your shoes, I probably would have pitted one lap earlier than you did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that it looked like the track was getting pretty wet, and it looked like it was getting pretty hairy for both you and Austin there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's some good insight, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
And then as far as the gap towards the end, it closed from 11 seconds to, what did it finish, 2.6? How much of that was you maintaining, and how much of that was Devin and Chris just being faster?
I hate to sound like this guy, but it was mostly maintenance of gap. Like I said, there's a difference between being so terrified that you're not going to do anything about it and being so terrified that you could still push it if you needed to. And I could have. If they got too much closer than they did, it probably would have seen a much different type of approach from me. Candidly, one area that I need to improve on as a driver is rain lines. I'm not talking about, you know, actual wet weather car control, but I just don't know much about what's appropriate in those times. So I took the approach with the minimal knowledge I have on that topic of just don't press the brake pedal where the water is. Drive the car around the puddles that you do see is visible, and stay out of the rubber areas that look like if you had ice skates, you'd have a good time. And that recipe was successful enough to get the victory in the record books. And you know, the gap, I'm glad that I had it. I'm glad that we did make that right call at the start of the race to start on dries to be able to build a gap in the first place. And yeah, I know James Pierce and Steve Brown ate some fence along the way, and that was definitely a factor in my victories story. But you know, it's definitely not all of it.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier to be cautious there, and you know, especially in these conditions.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on the win. I look forward to being out there with you next week. Hopefully,
It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah,
I'm happy to work with you to try to take down this crazy pace that Pierce has. I know he terrorizes core, and I'm looking forward to ways that, you know, at the end of the day, we're all competitors. We're here because we have competitive drive, and now someone has walked in here and is. I'll be real. He's better than me. He is faster than me. So now the challenge is, let's go get him, and I'm excited to go get him.
Let's get to it. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, huge thanks to you guys at Core, and honestly, kudos to you, Carl, for allowing Colin to step into the broadcast booth tonight. That was definitely an enter at your own risk situation, and I can't wait to watch it to see if it paid off. And thanks to my usual litany of supporters: Team Conti Sim Performance, Freebrain Hot Wings Morning Show, Sim Magic, Studio 3, Digital Sim Sports, Martin PC, the viewers of Core, the great viewers of Core. I hope you guys got a treat tonight. And thanks to my family, my girlfriend, mom, dad, Aunt Sandy, Anna, Chris. I think you even watched tonight. Shout out to you. And yeah, we'll get to it at Indy Oval. That's not my favorite place on earth, but you know, we'll figure it out. I'll start turning laps in 20 minutes. I don't care.
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm anxious to watch this one back and see if it paid off too. So,
well, I can say one thing. Colin got a lot less off tracks up here in the booth, but it's certainly fun having him up here. But
yeah, that's true. That's true. His incident counter did not go up tonight.
All right, buddy. We will see you next week at Indy.
Cheers. Take care, guys.
That is your overall and pro class winner, the 3 of Craig Jancic, and a fun one here tonight, for sure. At least for us up here in the booth, we didn't have to deal with the rain. We had to deal with the slickness. We didn't have to deal with the transition. yeah, a lot of things we had to deal with, but what we did get to deal with was some really great racing and some last lap passes, everything like that. Everything that that Le Mans should be was exactly what we got to see tonight. I want to thank everybody out there that tuned in. I know Barry was out there. John Nomiger, I know he wished he was out here on the track with the rest of the competitors out here. Antonio Diaz checking in there. Santana Motors Sim Sports. Yeah, thank you for everybody that tuned in. If you haven't done so yet, hit that like and subscribe. Gets to some of the sponsor reads here real quick. 40 Racewear, makers of the ultimate sim racing shoes and custom apparel designed for sim racing by sim racers. 40 racing shoes, custom engineered to connect racers to the pedals in a way no other racing shoe can, while still providing the comfort needed for those double and triple stints. Visit 40racewear.com and check out the latest sim racing products, including the original racing gloves for your feet. Rev up your iRacing experience with Replica Racing. They create custom liveries that make your car stand out on the track, whether you want sleek, bold, or retro designs. Their talented team delivers eye-catching, high-performance graphics tailored just for you. Make your mark and race in style with Replica Racing, where your dreams hit the fast lane. Let's envision the future together. TTR Racing, this father and son team consists of Todd Torville in the M class and Tyler Torville in the Pro class. Just two guys who are here for a good time with good people and good racing. Thank you to our service members and veterans, TTR Racing, and a thank you to Martin PC as well. Just want to send a special shout out and thank you to Colin for hopping in here in the booth with us tonight, and yeah, thanks for letting us know you were available here tonight and hopping in. It was certainly fun to get a kind of a driver's aspect from this. Obviously, me and Joe do get out there on the track, but you probably have a little bit more experience with some of these guys out here in CSRL. So it was fun to bring you up here tonight. Joe, as always, I want to thank you for being the co-host and putting another one on here, and another great race here for CSRL. Round number 2 in the books. We still got 8 more to go, and we start off next week at the Indianapolis Road Course. It's one that it's like a lot of tracks. There's a lot of guys that can handle it, a lot of guys that are okay with it, but there's quite a few that just straight up don't like it. It is a flat course. It can be very tough, especially with some understeer and certainly some oversteer as well before you get back onto the actual former Brickyard, the original track. But that is gonna do it for us up here in the CRN booth. Hope you liked enjoying the rain here at Le Mans. It's certainly going to clear up next week for Indy, and we'll see some more good racing for CSRL. But for myself, Colin, and Joe, we'll see you at the track.